Hi, I'm Krista Johnson. This is Sister. I'm going to do what I call ascending through exercise. We have not done this before, but the reason why I like this exercise so much, because it teaches them to go forward, it teaches them to yield their forequarters, teaches them to yield their hindquarters, and it's a really, really good tool to use when you send them through a gate, when you send them through a stall door. It helps preparing communication for a trailer loading. It's a really, really good exercise. We've done some of the bits and pieces of communication that we're going to need for this already. She's been in training for 2.5 weeks now, but I'm going to try to put together those pieces for this exercise and see how it goes working through this task. I'm going to start by placing my belly button, my feet, and everything towards the wall post here, or a fence post, whatever you got to use as a marker. That'll help keep my feet honest as to where I'm going to stay. And I've got maybe 5 or 6 feet here between me and the wall. I'm just going to pet her there because she thought she needed to be worried about that. She doesn't. I'm just drawing out a boundary. And I'm going to start by putting a feel on the rope. I'm going to point out forward or even towards that next wall post there to direct her feet to go that way. So I want that snap to mean something. She's not following that. So that's where I'm going to back up my hurting pressure there and ask her to go forward. When her hip goes past that fence post, I'm going to lift my hand towards that fence post, bring my stick over here, and encourage her to come back towards the wall. She got part of that right. That's actually not too bad, and I slowed things down so you guys could see. I want her to get that hindquarter yield quicker and the forequarter yield quicker to where she'll be back at the wall again. But she did really, really well there. So I'll start the same thing here. Go back to my parked spot here. I'm going to point my rope hand and everything and open my belly button body language towards that barn post there. So that changed the weight of that snap. She should follow that. Since she's not following that, that's where I'll drive her forward. I'm going to lift my hand towards her croup, take a step forward here, try to get that hindquarter yield. I'm going to take another step forward here to ask her to yield her front end back over towards the wall. She's not quite getting the yield in there yet, but she's at least moving the right halves of her body. And the reason why I wanted to work on this exercise with her is because she needs more help with yielding her hindquarters. She's not very good at it yet. She's not quite sure where to be there. She's just sniffing the wall, so I'll just let her sniff the wall. Not worried about it. I'm going to draw out this boundary here, this boundary here. I've got my gate closed, and then there's a boundary here. So when I get her going back and forth, I'm actually wanting her to not really pass my shoulder too much, but I'll start tightening that up as we go. I'm going to put that feel on the rope. I'm going to point, open my gate towards that fence post, wall post. There, she's starting to follow that feel on the rope. Here's where I'm switching my hand. Here I'm going to come off here and say, don't be there. She kind of missed the hindquarter yield there and then kind of got the forequarter yield going back towards the wall, but I like how she's thinking and starting this out. That's actually not too bad for not doing this before. So I'm going to let her think about that. But I want to tighten up these yields. I want that forward yield, which she went forward with the feel on the rope that time much better. So that's the forward yield, and then I want her to tighten up those hindquarter and forequarter yields as we go. She's thinking a little bit there. I'll give her a minute. Pat her. All right, so I'll open up my gate, which is my belly button and my feet there. I direct my hand towards that post. She's not following the feel on that rope. That's where I'm going to do this forward scoop with my stick to encourage her to go forward. I'm going to switch my hands as she goes through. I'm going to lift my hand kind of towards that fence post to get her to yield the hindquarters. I'm going to let her finish her lick and chew there, but I'm going to keep my hand here because I'm already in position to ask her for that forequarter yield there. I'm just going to take a little bit more slack out of the rope and direct her front end over a little bit more. There she goes. I'm going to pet her. So again, I'm just going to draw out these boundaries here just so you guys can see and so she can see. And if you haven't watched my 5 boundaries for communication video. I recommend you watch that as to where the 5 boundaries are at. But for right now, I've got my gate here. I don't want to go past my shoulder here or my shoulder here. If you can see in the dirt, she's kind of going too far over here, but we'll tighten that up as we go. I'm going to ask her again. I'm going to put that feel on the rope, point towards that wall post. See if she goes forward here. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She's not going to follow that, so that's where I'm going to come in, scoop her forward. I'm going to switch my hands, point my rope hand towards that fence post on the wall. We kind of got the hindquarter yield a little bit there, although I wanted her to step forward. I'm going to slow it down, take another step towards the wall, ask her to move that front end. That was a really nice turn there. And I actually like how she went forward out of it, but for this exercise, I actually want her to stop. It's there. I'll just put her back in that spot and just kind of tell her that that gate's closed at the moment. And pat her because she's a little bit worried. She's a really sweet little horse. You say hi to the camera there? All right, I'm gonna step back in my spot because I made a couple steps forward while I was asking her to yield. I'm gonna step face towards that post, put that feel on the rope. There, I want her feet to be moving forward. So that's something that we're working on with lightening up the feel and the pressure on that rope. And to unstick her feet. There, I'm going to switch my hands, lift towards that fence post. I'm going to come on that offside there, just to ask her to not be there. That'll help her roll over in the hindquarters better. But that was another really nice turn with her front end there. And she stopped right there. Horses are really, really good at noticing space and distance and knowing where to be if we're consistent with them. So she's figuring that out pretty quickly. I'm going to go through it a little bit faster this time to see if I can use that forward momentum to get her to roll under the hind a little bit better. There, she's not sure what to do. That's where I might switch my hands back. I'm just going to drive the hock towards her nose there. There, she stepped over and in front that time. That was better. We kind of missed our pattern here with not going past my shoulder, but I'm helping her get her feet yielding the way I need them to yield, or the way that's going to be more convenient and more healthy for her to yield. So that was better that time because she has a tendency to want to kind of step back and not really step over and in front and go forward. So I'm going to slow it down for her. I'm going to ask her to move her front right back over towards the wall. That's pretty good. I'm going to ask her to stop and then back up there. I'm just going to put a little 2-beat rhythm in the rope. See if she'll back up. If she doesn't, that's where I'll come with the stick and just kind of slowly move that boundary back. I'm just going to pet her. She doesn't need to be defensive about that. I'm going to ask her to go this way. Switch my hands so she's going forward. See if I can get her to tighten that up. There, she stepped under and in front of, but then she stepped back. I want her to keep thinking stepping forward and in front on that. But she initially stepped under and in front that first step, and that was really good. She licked and chewed there. So I'll send her back the other way again. Point towards that post, open up the gate. Here's where I'm going to switch my hands. I'm going to encourage her to go forward because I need that forward to work for that hindquarter yield to work. I'll lift my hand. I'm going to block her nose there. That's going to help tighten up that yield a little bit, but she's still thinking step backwards when I want her to think step forwards, but it's her first time doing this, and she's doing really well in these forequarter yields. I'll step back and have her try that again. I'll point towards that post. Open the gate. Ask her to follow that feel. gonna switch my hand, my rope, lift towards that post, stop her nose there, push her nose that way. Try it one more time this way. Let's see if I can get a little more forward in there this time. Get her to think step over in front of. There, she kind of got the first 2 steps right. Let her think about that. And ask her to move that front end over, back towards the wall. That's good. Push her back to where she's on this side of the gate. That time, I kind of pointed the stick towards her hind end a little bit more. I was kind of hoping she'd step over more in the front, but she's not quite there yet. So we're just going to keep working at that little by little. There she stepped over in front of. So there I'm going to stop and let her think about that. She even brought that front foot forward. Let her think about that for a second, because that's the goal. It's not perfecting the task. That's the goal. It's getting the little pieces working better and better as we go along. But for the most part, she's yielding her back end, she's yielding her front end. She's just not stepping under and forward as much with the hind end as I'd like. She tends to want to just kind of sidestep and then kind of suck back. And that's kind of why I wanted to choose this exercise, to try to help her with that a little bit more. Now I'll just ask her to move that front end back over. And I'll point the stick handle towards that halter knot there on the right side of her face if I need to, just to give her that little bit of a direction. So she's doing really good with her front end. It's really nice. She seems to understand that quite a bit better. I'll switch my hands, shorten that rope. There she stepped forward. I'm almost going to pull her forward here. Not pull her forward, but guide her forward a little bit. See if I can stop her from thinking suck back at least. Because she stepped under really nicely there. And this is one of those times where I'll kind of abandon the tight boundaries for just trying to get her to think about moving her feet a little differently. And ask her to move back towards the wall. Ask her again. I'm just looking for a little bit of improvement. That was much better with her feet there. And I might even take a step back and guide her forward to encourage her to go forward out of that. Girl. I'm going to ask her to back up. I'm going to put 2 beats in the rope there. Guide her chest backwards. Guide her nose back towards the wall. Close my gate. Myself situated in that spot again. Ask her to go this way. Switch my hands. I like how she's stretching her neck down there. There she's thinking step back again, so I'm going to guide her forward a little bit. So I want her to think forward in that yield, not backwards. So these are just some of the little ways and some of the little tools that I can use to try to communicate with her feet a little bit better on what I'm looking for. So I'm wanting her to follow that rhythm. If she doesn't, I'll just kind of put some hurting pressure up in the center of her chest there. I'm going to direct her that way. See if I can get her thinking forward. She's still thinking kind of put that foot back, but she stepped under quite nicely there. I'll try it one more time on the other side, and I'm going to call that good for our first training session on this. I like how she's starting to get the shape. There she's licking and chewing. Just want her to think forward there. And then over. So not perfect, but if we watch the beginning part of the video on what she was doing with her hind feet, she started improving with stepping over in front of instead of just kind of sidestepping and going back. And that was my goal for today's training session. I'm gonna let her think and soak about that. She likes to think about a lot of things, but I'm really happy with how that went, and I want to keep applying that more and more on getting her to step under and go forward out of it. Thank you for joining us.